Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. Today on Rants with Stretch, we're going to be talking about money, specifically how to make good decisions with it so you can manage a limited amount of it and turn it into some high dollar items or potentially a very nice career for yourself. I will share my limited financial knowledge and some of the decisions I made, which took me from working for retail for $8 an hour part-time to this wonderful shop that you see behind me and a new truck and a fairly comfortable life. So I go out of my way, spend quite a bit of money buying things for myself to review on the show for you guys. You know, high dollar, premium brand stuff. This costs 4 times what the Harbor Freight one does. However, can a working man afford this? And this doesn't have much, resonance with me, because let me tell you how I started my welding shop and my business. When I was a kid, I've always collected tools and such, and ever since I was a little kid, that's what I'd want for my birthday and Christmas and everything. And here's the thing about this. I get these comments, and I look at this, and I'm like, I don't want to just get up here and rant about this. I thought about it. I was like, there has to be something below the surface here. There's something a little bit deeper, and I think it all has to come down with choices that people make and how badly you actually want something. And, how hard you're willing to work for it, basically. Because, here's my story. Like I was saying, when I was about 9 or so, to my memory, maybe a little bit before then, I started getting an allowance. I thought it was the greatest thing ever. I got a whole $5 a week. I mowed our probably like half-acre backyard with a little push mower, a little old Honda push mower, which ran for like years. And then my dad eventually sold it for a newer one. And you guys don't care. Some of you guys care about lawnmowers, but whatever. So, I learned pretty early on with this that I could have about anything that I wanted, as a kid at least, with my $5 allowance. But I had to save it. I had to have discipline, and I had to plan for things. And then sometimes, we all know the more you put into something, the more you get out of it. So, occasionally I'd rake a bunch of leaves for $1 or $2, that sort of thing. Save that aside as well. I remember when I was about 12 or so, we moved to a much larger property with a much larger lawn, and my allowance went from $5 a week to $20 a week. And man, I mean, for as thrilled with this as I was, and for as many doors as this opened for me, you'd think I struck oil in the backyard or something, or I found a truck-sized nugget of gold back there. Those were the good old days. And some of my really long-term viewers, like 2009, 2010 or so, will remember when I really started getting serious about welding, and I started putting some tools together. Now, at this point in my life, I was not making much money. I had my $20 a week for mowing the lawn, or, the other half of the year for, shoveling or plowing snow out of the driveway and, doing whatever else. And I remember in about 2012 or so, I progressed beyond that and whatever odd jobs or mowing neighbors' lawns and stuff I could do, to my first on paper official job, which is I worked at a Tractor Supply store for $8 an hour part-time. I remember, like my paychecks from that place would be $220, $230, to maybe $240 every 2 weeks, bi-weekly. And still, with this amount of money, plus mowing the lawn, plus doing some odd jobs, I was able to acquire some quite good stuff for myself. I started off buying an old AC-225 Lincoln welder. I moved from that because I don't really like those things, probably because I really, to this day, maintain there's actually something wrong with it. It didn't weld like any other AC stick machine I've ever used. I went from that to a Hobart Stickmate. I bought a Hobart Handler 187. I bought Milwaukee DeWalt and Makita angle grinders, a whole bunch of smaller random. And, the point I'm trying to make here is I really did not have much money. But I set myself a goal. This is, if you want to get quality stuff, you want to have nice tools, nice equipment and everything, you have to, and really not even just that, whatever you want in life in terms of tangible material things, you have to set a goal for yourself. You have to say, I want to be in this position. I want to be able to do these things. whatever it is. For me, I wanted to be able to do some profitable welding work, and I did with the fairly limited tools which I just described. I did all kinds of stuff. I did agricultural work. I had customers who were landscapers. They'd bring me like broken lawnmowers and trailers and such. And, I'd weld all this stuff back together for them. I built barbecues. I sold them. What I wanted was to get to the position where I had the tools and equipment necessary to do these things. And I did all the aforementioned things until I could actually get to this. And for this reason, when people tell me, you're so lucky you have this, that, or the other thing. I could never afford that. I only make this much a year or something. You can see how this doesn't really, I don't have any real sympathy for this. And I understand there are legitimate reasons why, if you're supporting a family, if you're disabled or something, and you're only making so much, I understand it. But for people to regularly, come to me and say, this properly made tool that'll last for generations costs like $30 or $40. I could never afford that. You see, this is the thing. You can't because you say this. One of the best lessons I ever got in life is everything is a choice. And this is one of the first main things to take away from this video. What you make, the amount of money you make, really has no bearing on how you live. And the things you have. I know that sounds insane, but hear me out. What makes the difference is what you actually do with the money, and how much of it you blow on things you actually need, things you want, and just useless crap, basically. I know I don't have the world's greatest people skills, whatever, but this is really how I see things, and I'm not trying to sugarcoat stuff for you guys. Let me tell you all another story. And this is a true story, firsthand. Went there, saw this, experienced this. This is not, theoretical, exaggerated to make a point. I'm sure it happened somewhere, so I'll tell it here like it's true fact. I've literally seen this with my own eyes. When I lived in Austin, Texas, for a while before I got out of there about as quick as I got there. That's a story for another day. When I lived in Austin, Texas, I dated this girl there who was essentially like a nanny. She was sort of a cleaning lady, helped with the kids, etc. for this very wealthy family who lived out west of town, which is, for anybody familiar with the area, this is where all the mansions are. This is where the people with a lot of money are. And this family made 7 figures a year. If you're as bad at math as I am, that's well over $1 million. And they regularly, not regularly as in every week, but regularly as in probably every couple months or so, they were so broke that they could not afford to pay this girl, for her, cleaning, driving the kids around services this week. And she didn't really make much. We're talking like, I remember my first year in business, my taxable income was like 15 or 16 grand, and that was this year. And I made quite a bit more than she did, even at the time. And so, you do the math with that and divide it out over a week, maybe add 50% as a worst case scenario if she worked a lot of overtime. And still, they had no ability to pay her for this stuff. And they just have to pay her more the next week or something. And like I said, well over $1 million income in this household, and they couldn't afford 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe $800, to pay this nanny. And the reason for this is it's the same reason why I was able to afford, really nice tools on next to no money. It's all about choices. These people, and I don't really like to make examples out of things like this because, it sounds harsh and judgmental and everything, but I'm doing this to try to help people who are trying to make better choices in life. So I'm willing to, even though I don't really like it. They just made poor choices. That's all there was to it. They lived in this huge mansion. It was a family of like 4 people. This house was like twice the size of my house and shop combined, maybe 3 times. Really nice, like stone walls and everything. And I think it had a pool and a bunch of other stuff. They were really kind of beyond their means to the point where, like I said, they couldn't pay the nanny. They drove this old, beat down SUV. It was like probably close to 10-year-old Chevy Suburban, which hadn't been very well maintained. I think the guy drove a nicer car. I don't think I ever saw it though. But it's choices. That's really all it is. If you want to be able to do a lot with not that much, here's what you have to do. Again, you have to say, I want to be in this position right here. You have to learn to, I'll put it this way. On one of the videos I made a while back, I did a promotional video for a saw. It's a commercial grade, carbide metal cutting saw. And I heard from so many people that are like, oh, this costs so much money. How's the average person ever supposed to justify buying one of these? Well, quite frankly, they're not. This isn't like a homeowner hobbyist type tool. This is a full-on commercial machine. So the first thing that I would say from this, and I know this sounds kind of harsh and everything, but I'm sure I've done the same thing as well. You have to decide what you actually need and what you actually want. This is huge. If you, just to use this thing as an example, if you watch this video, and you say, oh, well, I'm going to be getting into welding. I'm going to start a small shop. I'm going to do like what Chucky did, work on landscaper equipment and jobs for small farmers and whatnot out in the garage. I could really use something like this. You say, all right, well, it's $550 or $600 or whatever. I got like an extra $100 I don't need right now. And, if I save $50 a week for this thing, I can pay for it in X number of weeks. And this will help you to decide if you actually need this thing. Now, I'm telling you guys about where I was in 2009, 2010. I didn't get my first carbide saw until 2013, and I only got it because I could horse trade for it, basically, and I still have it. It's over there. And this is the next thing. You say, you watch this video and you do what I used to do with a lot of things then, and what I still do now. I literally went to the store this morning to go pick up a couple of, I think they call them furniture dollies, those little like four-sided square things with the flimsy casters. I need them to move something around my shop here. And, so I go to the store, I'm looking at these, and I'm looking at something else, and I'm like, this is kind of nice, but, I didn't come here for this. I don't actually need this, and I didn't buy what the other thing was. I'm not going to tell you guys, so it's easier to relate to this. You can, think of something that happened to you, as opposed to if I tell you what this tool is, you're like, oh, that's stupid. I'd never buy one of those. Heard it, which is fine. I understand. But the other thing is, you see something like, in the mentality that I would have liked to think, the ideal mentality that I would have liked to think I would have had when I was really saving money to get my foot in the door years ago. If I had seen this thing, I would have said, man, that is pretty cool, but, that's a lot of money for me right now. I don't really have this right now. I'm still getting going. I can't really afford this. And you know what? It is nice. It is cool. But, I've got this old Makita abrasive saw, which I still have. It's over there. And for now, this does the job for me. Yeah, it's a little dusty, but you know what? It's cheap. It's paid for. And, this $550 for this nice, commercial carbide saw, that'd be cool and all. But man, I got to buy this, that, and the other thing first. This will make me more money in the short term, especially because I already have an abrasive saw that does get the job done, even if it's not ideal. And go with that versus this is, and I'm not saying I would have done this. I'm saying I would have liked to have done this. I hope I would have done that, but I don't know. This is what I would consider ideal or the better decision of the two. The other decision you could make is what I feel is incorrect, and quite frankly, it's a recipe to make yourself poor. And I know that sounds really bad, and probably rightfully so, but I don't mean as in you'll never make money, as in it's a bad decision. You see this and you say, you know what, that is cool, I should get one. Oh, it costs this much? I wonder if this one, which costs a third as much, will do the same thing and be just as good. Pro tip, no, it won't, because I reviewed what people said, specifically this exact saw, which people were referencing from the expensive saw. Or you say, man, that's nice. I'd like that, and you just buy it. You don't actually have any use for it, and now, that $550 or $600, which you could have saved, you could have invested, you could have bought something you actually need, use it to pay off outstanding debt. Well, now it's gone, and all you have is a saw that you don't actually need. My point is this. When you see something and you're tempted to buy it, keep in mind whatever your goal is. Say to yourself, does this play into this goal? And for me, this goal was a business, basically. And for you, it doesn't have to be. It could be anything. You say, oh, my old truck's on its last legs. I have to, put myself in a position where I can come up with this or that for down payment. And I have to, maybe hustle a couple bucks welding stuff on the weekend for a monthly payment for a while, until my job picks back up or whatever the situation is. Or you say, man, this is my dream motorcycle. I really like this motorcycle. And if buying this thing, whatever it is, doesn't help you get to this goal, don't freaking buy it. Unless it's like, something you actually have to have. I understand electric bills and food and things along those lines, but if it was me back in the day, and I go to some local big box store or something, and I see, I don't know, let's say it's a drill press. Let's also assume that big box stores sell drill presses, which are actually, worth buying. I see, oh man, this thing's pretty cool. I like this. Well, I already have one. It's a little smaller than this, but man, this would be nice, but I can make more money with putting this towards an AC/DC TIG machine. And you know what? I already have a drill press. It's not quite this nice, but it does work. I need the AC/DC TIG more than I need this. It's all about choices and priorities. I heard on a very related note something from a person who's a contractor, essentially. And what he does, among other things, is he goes through rented houses which have been abandoned, where people just walk out, they leave a bunch of crap. Who knows why some people do these things? I've been in a similar situation with a former renter in the past. 2 of them, actually. There's a reason why I bought a house instead of continued renting them. But anyway, this person said that there's a reason why most of these people do not own houses, they rent them. And I know that sounds bad, and I know there's definitely a place and time to rent property. That's what I did when I was just getting started. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. But what he's saying is, he goes into these things to clean them up, and he finds, there's never food from the grocery store, like fresh meat and fresh vegetable wrappers and stuff. It's always like restaurant takeout food and like frozen stuff out of the frozen section. All the stuff that costs a lot of money, and that's leaving aside, the health things with it. Or you go in there and they can't make their rent payment, but there's an empty box for the latest and greatest iPhone on the floor. Or, they really struggled to put down the security deposit, but you get there and you find out that there's, a box from a 48-inch TV along with an abandoned perfectly functional 34-inch TV. And, they bought the bigger TV on their like department store income. So they can have a TV that's a foot larger when you can barely afford a security deposit or whatever. These types of things. It's all about decisions. One of the most toxic things I think a person can do financially is say, oh man, I want to get going and start building my shop like a little old high school Chucky did, but I only make $10 an hour. I'll never get to that. There's really no point. Or they say, man, I know I should save some money aside so I can like invest it in stuff in the future, cover unforeseen expenses, but I only make such and such. Man, if only I made like 10% more, I'd actually have enough to be worth saving. And it's really not how this works. I mean, like I said, I don't mean to just, get up on this pedestal, and roll down the window of my Lambo fresh back from Lambo land and just go, oh, it's easy, just stop being poor. I've actually been there. I have done this. I started off saving my allowance, buying tools, saving for months to buy, equipment and gear and things along those lines. I worked part-time, $8 an hour, still managed to buy all sorts of cool stuff. I remember I used to do a lot of scrapping. I had an old half-ton Chevy pickup. And I knew a bunch of farmers and everything, and this was before all the fence lines really got cleaned out of this stuff because scrap prices really surged. So that old, cultivator in a farmer's field that's really not worth selling and is worth $20 in scrap. Well, now it's worth $80 in scrap, and there's 4 times as many people who want to take it off your hands. But anyway, back in the day, I used to junk stuff. Basically, I had a torch. I'd roll around with that and a Sawzall in my old pickup. I'd drive out, talk to people. Hey, you want this thing? It's been sitting there probably longer than I've been alive. No, we're never going to use that. I'm tired of looking at it. Take it. So I'd go out there, cut this thing up into pieces that I could manhandle into the truck, drive them to the scrapyard, throw them out, get like 8, 10, 14 cents a pound sometimes if I was really lucky. And I saved this money and I bought my first ever plasma cutter, my original Hypertherm PowerMax 45, used it for like 5+ years, just sold it a while ago for most of what I bought it for after getting all the use out of it. So, don't fall into this defeatist trap of saying, I just don't have enough money to do this stuff. you do if you are willing to make these decisions and actually save up for things and be disciplined enough not to spend money on frivolous crap or things that you don't actually need. And like I said, I understand some people actually don't, like folks trying to support a family on a very low income, or, retired people focused on Social Security. I understand this completely. But the reality is, for every one of these people who actually has a legitimate reason why they can't, afford proper tools or save up for things, there's like 20 people who really only think they do. It's like, we've all seen the picture of, I'll see if I can find it and roll it in here. It's a horse tied to, he's tied off so he can't, walk away from anywhere, but he's tied to a plastic lawn chair. It's like, what's that old saying? The bonds of slavery are forged in paper chains, something along those lines. Really, you're as capable and empowered as you want to be. If you want to sit around and say, man, I'm going to be stuck making $8 an hour at Tractor Supply forever, like I would have been, maybe 9, 10 if I was lucky, instead of sitting around and saying that, I said, hey, I'm going to save some money. You know what? I don't really have anything planned this weekend. I'm going to try to haul in like 2 loads of scrap before the place closes. And, I'm going to save this up. I'm going to buy this machine. I'm going to use it to do this kind of welding job. And I did. And, it worked out. If I can do this, you can do it too. And, so I guess that's most of what I wanted to say. I guess really the only other thing, one of the greatest adversaries of this that you'll have are your desires to buy stuff, basically, things that you don't actually need. Like I said, if you're going to go down this road, you want to get into, setting up a shop or going into business, whatever, you have to ask yourself, is whatever this is actually going to put me closer to this goal? And if no, don't buy it. People who, and I can say this as someone who has and still kind of does work in marketing, people who sell things like this are really going to play to your emotions. I do this thing sometimes where, if I'm watching TV with like a buddy of mine or something, and commercials come on, or we see an ad somewhere for, like a new nice car, and there's like models standing around, I need this. I have to sell all my crap and buy this because look at those girls. If they come with the car, see, they're standing right beside. Seriously, guys, if I buy this come with it, like they're part of this. If I buy this car, I get those. It's such a ridiculous concept. But the people in the case of this sports car or whatever, that's the message which you're trying to send. And a lot of people, it's kind of hard to blame people who've never sat down and actually thought about this and recognized this for what it is. They want to send this message that if you buy this car, you'll be successful because this is the car that successful people drive. And if and the girls come with it because they'll want you because you have this car. To add to this, I watched a show on TV with one of the British Top Gear guys. I think it was James May, and he talks about like one of his dream cars growing up. It was a Lamborghini. I don't know my exotic cars. It was one of those 1980s Lamborghinis. He had a poster of it on his bedroom wall. And one day for the show, he gets to meet up with someone who actually owns this car in real life, and he's talking to him. He's like, "Man, you have the sweetest car ever. This thing's great. Do you get lots of attractive young women who check you out in this thing and want to see it and then ride in it and learn more about it?" And the guy goes, "No, mainly just middle-aged dudes." Well, let me tell you a couple things about that. I've known some people who have huge amounts of money. Most of them do not drive flashy cars. They drive, a few years old, paid for, reliable vehicles, which are typically just normal cars because they have this financial sense to say, man, this thing isn't much. It's just like a normal middle of the road Toyota, whatever that I drive to my job where I make 6 figures at. But, I'm trying to do stuff with my money. Why should I go to work all day just to blow it on a car to get to work? This one does this perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with this. It's like 3 years old. It has 50,000 miles on it. Friggin' the Taliban run these things into the ground for like 30 years. I could drive it back and forth to work for a couple more before I trade it off. It's going to save me so much money. This thing's really not going to appreciate much more in a couple years. And this is going to save me like 20 grand in car payments. And, I'd really rather spend that on my business or my tools to get going, or whatever. And So, but I guess that's beside the point a little bit. It really, the main thing I would want someone to take away from this video is it really is all about choices. I don't care how much you make or how little you make, because like I said, I got started on my $20 a week lawn mowing money, and I thought I'd really hit it big when I got an $8 an hour part-time job. And I saved money and I worked hard, and look at where we are now. I really can't complain. And like I said, if I can do this, you can do it too. It's really not difficult at all. There's nothing complicated to this. It's a very simple thing. The problem is it does require discipline. You have to be able to decide what's a need and what is a want. And this goes, I don't care how much money you make. This is important. Reference the family who made 7 figures that I mentioned earlier. If they took a couple less, cruises a year or whatever, they could have bought, a car that wasn't falling apart, or paid the nanny, or saved up an extra $1,000. So, whatever that, they could pay the nanny later or whatever. And it's all about choices. Whatever your goal is, if you want to get a shop with a bunch of tools, you want to get started, you want to buy a new car, you want to buy a motorcycle, whatever, if you are actually willing to save some money, and I know it's difficult for some people, I know some people just plain and simple don't have much to save. Like I said, been there, done that to a lesser extent. If you're trying to raise a family on that, retail salary or something, it's going to be that much harder. So I'll be honest, things are stacked against you. You could make excuses and probably live with yourself for doing it. Or you could persevere through this. It might take you a little longer, whatever, but you can still do it, and you can do it about as well as anybody else. And you can still, really set yourself up quite well for later on down the road. So, and the other thing is, this is sort of more directly related to the comments I referenced earlier. Sometimes it's really best to save up some more money and buy proper equipment. If you watch all of the reviews I've ever done, the underlying theme in all of them, and there are exceptions, the underlying theme in all of them, except for a few isolated types of equipment, like welding machines, for instance. We all know, like in current year, your choices are Chinese made, or Chinese made assembled in the US, or like European made for 4 to 6 times the cost. Or maybe you can get Chinese parts assembled in Mexico for slightly less than Chinese parts assembled in the US. So the lines are kind of blurred on some things, I will admit that. But, if you buy proper freaking stuff, it makes you more money. 9 times out of 10, it costs a lot less to run. It lasts longer. And when you're done with it, you can sell it for most of what you paid for it. So it's cheaper than, buying the cheap one in the first place. Even if it works properly, which it probably won't. You'll probably struggle with it and fight with it and lose money because you can't complete projects because it's not working. But that's less direct and probably less inspirational. So I'll stop harping on it. The point is this. You can have and do anything in life if you're willing to save up some money for it and work hard for it. And mainly just save up some money. There will be temptations. It's like, the luxury car with the models or whatever. Or, the other thing is, a lot of people, and we've all done this. I'm not saying I haven't. And I think we all have. At some point or another in life, we've all bought things like material, physical, tangible things, with the expectation, perhaps from our own minds, perhaps from, ads we've seen or whatever, that if only we had this, we'd actually be happy. You see ads for, whatever it is. And these things can range from practical things to the most frivolous, vain, jewelry, luxury stuff, whatever you can imagine. But, look at the person in this ad. If only I had, this or that item, I'd be so happy. Look at how happy this person looks. You have to realize that material things don't actually have any ability to really make you happy or to change anything in life. I was talking to a buddy of mine who's also self-employed and makes quite good money about how sometimes, we've all heard people say, oh man, this person doesn't like their job and they make so much money. I tell you what, if I made this much money, I'd do that and be the happiest guy. Well, you probably wouldn't, because, actually having been in this situation where now we make quite a bit more than we did in years gone by, we look back now and kind of laugh about how we have the same exact work ethic we had then, for better or worse, and the same exact attitude we had back then, for better or for worse. The way I look at it is like this. If you waste away whatever money you have now, whatever your theoretical, I do things differently. If I made this much money, well, you'll waste that away too. If I blew that $5 a week I got when I was 9, or that $20 a week when I was 10 or whatever, I'd still be blowing every penny of every ounce of discretionary income I had, and then maybe some now when I actually make good money and have a trade. So this is the thing, if you form good habits now, wherever you are in life, it really is never too late for this, then you'll have two benefits. One, you'll go further with whatever you have now, how much or how little it is. And two, when you actually do work hard, you get to that theoretical, one day I want to make this much money, well, you'll know what to do with that so you can get the most out of it possible for yourself. Nothing is going to change if you make twice as much as what you do now, you know, and you still, I don't know, theoretically you show up late for work regularly now, you're still going to show up late for work regularly then. Maybe not for the first week or something, but eventually it's just going to feel like another job. So this is another thing I'm talking about. If this is a mentality that you have, because I feel like this is not common knowledge, and I never consciously realized it until, you know, a few months ago talking to my buddy. If this is something you have and something you do where you say, oh man, you know, I'm for whatever reason, I'm not the greatest employee that I could be or the most capable or successful that I could be now because of this extenuating circumstance, you know, with my job. I only make $8 an hour at Tractor Supply. If I made $12 at Target or something, I would do this, that, and the other thing. Don't let yourself fall into that, because we both now, you know, in our skilled career fields make like 5 to 10 times as much as we did working like, you know, 9 to 5 or whatever, Tractor Supply, for instance. And like I said, same exact everything. This doesn't change depending upon the amount of money you make. So the lesson is this: if you are in this position, force yourself out of it, whatever it takes, because you'll end up forming actually good habits, which will help you quite a bit later on down the road, and it'll have more immediate benefits to where you are now. At least it should. You know, you might get a raise, you might get, you know, rewarded for your hard work, and if it doesn't, you know what, you're still ahead because now you have better habits than you did before, and it's going to serve you throughout the rest of your career. So, like I said, I guess the gist of this video is you can have and accomplish and do anything you want as long as you don't make excuses. And I feel like once you realize this, if you're willing to actually like put your head down and, you know, get to work and save up some money and stuff, you can do exactly what I did to get going. Because like I said, it's not that difficult. It just takes a little bit of understanding and a little bit of discipline. And, you know, if I can do it, anyone can do it. I know it sounds cheesy, but I really do believe in you guys. I mean, frig, I did it and it managed to work. So, you know, you can do it too. So whatever the case, you know, I really was making this video to try to be helpful. I don't want to sound hateful or judgmental or whatever. Probably did, and it's probably, you know, like I said, I don't know if the world's greatest people skills, but I feel like this is advice which has helped me so many times over throughout my life, and so I wanted to share it with you guys as well. So for whatever it's worth, thanks for watching. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching. Cheers.